Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening. A beautiful sight, we're happy tonight, walking in a winter wonderland. Gone away is the bluebird, here to stay is a new bird. He sings a love song as we go along, walking in a winter wonderland.
Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today is, what day is it? Friday? Is it Friday today? Friday, December 19th, 6 days before Christmas. My gosh. And I mean, this year has absolutely blown by and absolutely nothing has happened. It is unbelievable. Unbelievable, because they keep telling us that things have happened. We've gone building, we've done things, we've made differences of some kind, but they haven't. Fundamentally, they have not made any kind of difference. They haven't done anything, really, not really. And it is disappointing, but they're trying to run a plan, and we don't want the plan to happen, but that's all they want to have happen. And if nothing else happens, our economy doesn't get fixed. It just keeps getting worse, right? We have debt that keeps kind of spiraling out of control. The debt service costs keep going up. The interest rates keep going up. And so because of all of this, we are in a situation where it's bad. And if the people who are in control do nothing to change things, it will continue to get bad. So they kind of win anyway. So they don't have to actually do anything, but they do want to keep doing things. And we don't want to let them. So they're just standing pat and letting the policies they've enacted destroy things, and it's doing quite a good job. And Carney is, poking our biggest trading partner in the eye, trying to switch us to a country that trades with Europe mostly. And I don't think it's not very good. It's not a good situation. And most people are disengaged from politics because we live in a culture that encourages people to be disengaged with politics, unless you're rabidly on the left, and in which case you are encouraged to push everybody and their uncle. It's like being vegan, right? Like there's a rule book for that, and you have to tell everybody you're vegan, right? Anyway, it works one way, and if things are problematic, then and you speak up, you're the problem, not the actual issue you're trying to raise. And that's wild and crazy. The United States will no longer be funding NGOs. So Marco Rubio is going to be making that announcement. It's interesting because I think it's a good strategy. It starves the bad actors, but Canada is going to continue to fund the NGOs. And the strategy of the bad guys here, if there are good guys and bad guys, and if you think that Marco Rubio and Trump represent good guys in this scenario, less bad guys, fundamentally, the strategy of the bad guys, people who want to take down Trump and Rubio, is to win the midterms and then basically impeach Trump and remove him from office. They don't want him finishing out his 4-year term, from what I've heard. And so we'll see. Lots of people are saying that there's absolutely no pathway for Trump to win the midterms. So I don't know what the strategy is for post-Trump, but if Trump's strategy is, I'm going to finish out my 4 years here, and it's going to be the strongest economy in XYZ, they can undo that with a couple of executive orders. So it's not going to be super good, I don't think, at all. Putin wants an end to the war very publicly, and the European Union backed down on seizing Russian assets and giving it over to Ukraine. So that's a win for Hungary, I think. Department of Justice and Canadian Border Services found misconduct in 2025. Lots and lots of misconduct. No surprise there. EU farmers are upset and in Brussels, and they are showing their upset with a protest very similar to the trucker convoy, if you ask me. And USMCA negotiations, which is really the biggest deal in Canada right now, is dominating the beginning of the show, and a comparison to the strategy in the 1930s and the strategy of killing a whole lot of people and Stalin's death machine, basically. And I find it interesting, the parallels to today. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. Ooh, yes, 6 days before Christmas. Yes, very, very light material today on today's show. Gosh. Mackenzie says, after missing multiple deadlines to get a sectoral tariff deal with the United States, Mark Carney now says one is unlikely to come, with any potential progress on steel, aluminum, lumber, and autos coming when USMCA is renegotiated. So here's the breakdown, and it's a video, and I don't really care, but here is what's going on. Kirk, and I talked about this yesterday, but the show messed up yesterday morning, and things seem to be going much better today, so I'm happy about that. Everything's recording, everything's streaming, and everything looks really good. So Kirk says, the U.S. put Canada on notice. if you want USMCA renewed, here's the demands. Some liberal-owned red tape has to be gone. And the big one is dairy protectionism that is supported by all parties, including the Conservative Party of Canada. The other interesting thing is the developing critical minerals marketplace. Canada will actually need to get building and not be stuck in land acknowledgements and all that nonsense. The USMCA is the only thing that is keeping Canada from an economic collapse, and all the parties pander to Quebec with bowing down to the Soviet-style dairy supply chain. Canadian politics will now be in the most interesting crossroads. And so here's the list again from yesterday, but I'll reiterate because it's important. For Canada, what the United States wants is market access to the United States dairy products that Canada committed to provide under the USMCA, and addressing Canada's exports of certain dairy products, the impact of Canada's online streaming and online news acts for U.S. digital service products, provincial bans on the distribution of U.S. alcoholic beverages, discriminatory procurement measures in Ontario, Quebec, and British Columbia need to be removed. Complicated custom registration for Canadian recipients of U.S. exports, and Alberta's unfair treatment of electoral power distribution providers in Montana. So there you go. There's the top line things. And I don't think any of that seems like a deal breaker. Most of these things seem like, yeah, do it up, have a good time. Canada would benefit from that too, right? Everybody benefits. It's no big deal. But Carney and all the powers that be are not interested in this. They want to protect Quebec and the dairy farmers, and I can't say I'm surprised by any of this. The food professor says dairy farms dump at least 600 million liters of milk every year to keep prices high, receive free quota allocations, and to collect billions in subsidies and trade deal compensation, all while Canadians pay inflated prices for dairy at the grocery store. When does this insanity stop? When Donald Trump makes us stop it. The food professor says the fact that Canadians has handed nearly $3 billion in compensation to dairy farmers for trade deals at a time when they are producing more milk and holding on average significantly more assets is beyond ridiculous. Sure is. Sure is. Ryan says, when will people finally realize that Carney doesn't want to make a deal with the United States? He is a Euro-globalist puppet who is willing to destroy Canada and trade with the United States to let Canadians lose everything to satisfy his agenda. Yeah, and he'll say, I'm doing it.
What do you think of this?
Why can't I pause this? Sorry, everyone. I'll just refresh this to pause it.
Bernie.
Why it doesn't make sense unless Mark Carney maybe worked for somebody else. Right. And I mean, he parachuted in from England. So I think it's not a stretch to say maybe he doesn't work for Canadians. Maybe he works for his banking buddies. I don't know. Somebody other than Canadians, though. Here's Mark Carney talking about the dairy, putting dairy on the table. And he says, we won't budge.
Prime Minister Mark Carney, what do you think of the series of conditions that the U.S. trade rep says Canada has to meet in order to extend CUSMA, including bolstering market access to U.S. dairy and addressing the provincial bans on U.S. alcohol? Does this make you feel more encouraged or discouraged about reaching an agreement with U.S. President Donald Trump? And Premier Ford, if you could weigh in afterwards, please.
Well, I'll put this in the context. These are a subset of issues of a much bigger discussion. We've been clear about our approach to supply management. We continue to stand by that. We'll continue to protect supply management. And we continue to see tremendous benefits, first and foremost for Canada, but very much for the United States, of pooling resources where possible in the auto sector, in the steel sector, in the aluminum sector, in the lumber, for forest products. And we will enter those discussions on the review of CUSMA in that spirit. The President and I had a long conversation with President Sheinbaum about this a little under 2 weeks ago, which set out the broad parameters for the review of CUSMA. We'll work closely together with the Government of Ontario, other provinces that are affected by potential adjustments there. And we will always pursue an agreement that is in the interest of Canadian workers, Canadian families, and we'll only sign an agreement that's consistent with that. And I'll give the Premier an opportunity to speak.
So, talking about this, I don't think, again, he addresses the real meat of it, right? I don't think that Canada is going to be willing to put on the table what is necessary to satisfy Trump, but we've been able to have deals where Trump has been left waiting for supply management. Is this going to be the time he says, no more Canada, you're done? Who knows? Hope not. Feels a little bit like Russian roulette, right? Mark Nixon says the U.S. makes clear demands on dairy access. I was talking about this years ago. I was talking about this when Chrystia Freeland was ignoring Trump about dairy. Okay, so Mark Carney's response, who cares? No, that was trade in general. Sorry. His actual response is hands off supply management. So Canada will sacrifice trade, jobs, and the broader economy to protect a small politically connected group in Quebec who's dumping 600 million liters of milk or something like that. We just talked about. It's intolerable. You can't have that. That's crazy town, right? Why are we paying $6.25 or whatever it is for 4 liters of milk? And we shouldn't be. We should pay less because they shouldn't be dumping all that milk. Those people should be able to make money on that milk. Why aren't we making baby formula from that milk? Why don't we say all excess milk created goes into free baby formula creation for new mothers in Canada? No? Why? Like, why not? Why not? Could you do that? Like, that would be a nice, easy law to pass, right? There you go. All the excess milk is baby formula and the farmers get compensated at cost of the milk or whatever. I don't know, whatever it is. What's the cost of the milk? It's all quota, right? You can't do that kind of stuff because of quota. Get rid of the quota. Bingo, bango, bongo. Problem solved. Bradshaw says, what's so funny, Carney? Canadians are losing jobs over a dumb ad that you approved at your sleepover at Dougie's, and Doug isn't fighting for anyone's job. He's going into hiding until March. This is just disgusting behavior by both. And so these guys are talking about the ad that Trump was very upset about with regards to misrepresenting Reagan and his position on trade. And so Carney's laughing about things, and it's a little weird. It's weird.
Well, number one, that was the best ad that's ever been run. 12.4 billion views. We wanted to bring it to the attention of the American people. And be very frank, it was President Trump. If he didn't comment on it, rather than 12.4 billion views, it might be 12.4 people viewing it. But in saying that, our intention was to bring it to the attention of the American people through the greatest president that ever lived. That was Ronald Reagan.
Prime Minister Carney kind of made a face when you said it was the greatest ad ever.
It was.
I'll maybe get him to weigh on that as well. But by not backing down, are you putting your own interests ahead of people in the sector?
In what sector? I believe you just can't roll. You can't. I'm in a different position. I'm not speaking for the Prime Minister. I'm speaking for the people of Ontario. We're getting hit the most out of any single province in this entire country. He's attacking our steel industry, attacking our automotive.
Wait until USMCA isn't renewed and all the automotive industries move back to the United States. What then, Doug? Juno News says, asked about the U.S. government saying that Canada's supply management agricultural policies must be addressed for USMCA renewal. PM Carney and Ontario Premier Ford defend the protection cartel system, even if it jeopardizes other sectors like auto. Not great. Not great. So yeah, we'll keep the supply management and screw the auto sector. Is that what you want from your politicians? I don't think so. Sam Cooper is responding to himself. He says, first, inside China's new fentanyl pipeline. And this plays to trade because if we, Canada, are turning a blind eye to weapons of mass destruction being created, produced, and trafficked through Canada and through Canadian ports, then we're complicit. And that's bad. You don't want that from your friend, right? Like, you don't want that. If you find out your friend's doing stuff like that, well, with friends like that, who needs enemies, right? And Sam Cooper says Chinese and Mexican cartel networks have increasingly routed container shipments of fentanyl pills and precursor chemicals through Vancouver as a production and export hub into the Western United States and Asia Pacific markets. A Trump administration source has alleged that, adding that U.S. officials believe Prime Minister Carney has downplayed Canada's role in fentanyl markets in meetings with senior State Department officials. Well, because he has to, but I don't think Canada's doing anything meaningful to fight them. Who's the fentanyls are again? When's the last time he was in the news about anything? Oh yeah, right. The fake photo ops in front of the Black Hawk helicopters. That's when. So yeah, useless. Absolutely useless. We're being sold a lie. Sam says, remember in the 1930s, Soviet Union, height of collectivization, Stalin's plan was eliminate private farming. Sounds familiar. All agriculture becomes state-controlled. The stated goal, efficiency and equality. The actual goal, total food control. Private livestock ownership is banned first. Owning a cow makes you a kulak. Kulaks are class enemies. Class enemies are executed or sent to the gulags. So you can either be the people who the government claims to represent, or you're an enemy of the people. And if you're an enemy of the people, then you go to the camps or you're just executed, and they'll whip up a mob to kill you, right? Pretty crazy stuff. Within 3 years, cattle population drops 60%, pig population drops 55%, sheep and goat population drop 65%. That's a huge drop, right? Peasants who'd been feeding themselves with household livestock are now dependent on state grain rations. Famine follows immediately, not from crop failure, but from deliberate grain confiscation and livestock elimination. 4 to 7 million people dead in Ukraine alone, millions more across the Soviet Union. But here's the part they don't teach. The Communist Party elite never stopped eating meat. The special stores, called whatever that is, served party members only, stocked with beef, pork, chicken, dairy, fresh vegetables. The peasants starved on grain rations while watching party officials eat better than they'd ever eaten. This created the perfect population control mechanism: eliminate independent food production, create dependency on the state rations, control who gets adequate food based on compliance, use hunger as a weapon against dissent. This is clearly the plan they're trying to roll out against us. Compliant workers got better rations. Critics got less. The threat of starvation was more effective than secret police. They're doing this online with this model online, but your free speech is the food, and they're withholding that. The same pattern repeated in every communist state. China, the Great Leap Forward, killed 45 million people. Party elite dine on duck and pork in Beijing, while peasants eat tree bark. No pheasants at all. Cambodia says the Khmer Rouge execute anyone owning livestock, grain rations for workers, meat for party members. North Korea, ongoing starvation for citizens. Kim family eats imported Japanese beef and Swiss cheese. Venezuela says cattle ranches nationalized, production collapses, government officials eat meat, citizens get rice rations. The collectivization is never about equality, it's about control. Independent protein production makes you ungovernable. You can feed yourself without state permission. Grain dependency makes you compliant. You eat what they give you. You work to earn food access. You don't rebel because hungry people don't fight. Seize the means of production always starts by seizing independent food production. And independent food production has always meant livestock. The 20th century proved it. Control the meat supply, control the population, starve dissenters, feed loyalists. Same formula the pharaohs used 5,000 years ago. Just more efficient with modern agriculture and smartphones to control you and sedate you. So, with that in mind, the CFIA is at it again. Canada will be killing another 56,000 turkeys at a farm in Ontario. At the same time, this is why the farmers in Europe are mass protesting. If they don't let us produce the food, then we would get very upset. They let us produce the food, and then they kill and spoil the food after it's produced, and then we have protest, right? Nothing to do but protest. And they claim, for your safety, comrade. Scary stuff. Here is this very debonair, could have been in Harry Potter farmer from Scotland talking to you about how long it takes to create a delicious steak that you might be eating for dinner.
Kia Stammer, I am Will Murray. I am a sheep farmer based in Scotland. Now, tonight you are probably going to go to your dinner table and have a juicy steak. Did you know that juicy steak takes 3 years of investment? It starts with the bull going out to the cow. And then 10 months later, we get a nice healthy calf. We spend the next couple of years feeding, watering, bedding, giving medicines to this calf in order for it to grow nice and healthy and strong. And then for a month or two, we hang it, we chop it up, and then it ends up on your plate. 3 years that takes. In the space of 1 day last year, you managed to break the trust of every farmer in the nation by introducing this inheritance tax. It has broken us. We are no longer able to invest into the future because we don't know what our future holds anymore. We don't know if there's going to be a farm anymore. All family farms are struggling as it is. And with a little bit of investment, we could thrive as opposed to taking it away from us. So what I'm saying is, be the healer, not the destroyer of an industry, and reverse the inheritance tax.
Starmer's a globalist. The whole cornerstone of their plan, globalist communists, are collectivists. They're the same people who pulled the Holodomor, the same people who killed the kulaks, the same people who did everything after that. Okay? And my gosh, The history that most people understand is very, very cracked. But the plan is not to make the farmers thrive. The plan is to have the farmers under the strict control of the state, so the bigwigs don't run out of meat. But the citizens, who cares about them, right? Wild stuff. And I think it extrapolates to all of the West. Everybody is doing the same stuff. Everybody, all of the West is doing the same stuff. The farmers in the EU are going to Brussels to protest. I've got news on that later. There are Irish farmers doing the same thing, going to Brussels. Everyone is lockstep in this plan against food, and that the reason why is explained in the Stalin reading that I just did. So it is a plan. They're rolling it out. It's coordinated, and we should damn well stop it. Jonathan is responding to Holly Doan. Holly Doan says, York University researcher assigned to pro-Palestine reports at taxpayers' expense called Canada a racist settler colonial state. Cabinet advisor Amira Al-Gawabi met personally with author and wrote in an email obtained through access to information that his work was critical. Jonathan says, how is it that Amira Al-Gawabi still draws a salary from the Canadian government? Because she is an activist, she is a piece on the board, and she is in a position to advance their agenda. And so that's why. She doesn't work for us. None of them do. That's why. And they put people in positions of power who will move their agenda forward, the globalist agenda forward, and not a nationalist agenda or a Canadian agenda or anything like that, a globalist agenda forward. That's why. That's why. World News is reporting, this is Marco Rubio making his announcement about funding NGOs. In a jaw-dropping announcement, the U.S. government is shifting its foreign aid policy to send money directly to recipient governments instead of NGOs. If we're trying to help countries help the country, don't help the NGO to go in and find a new line of business. Yeah, like you're enabling. Listen, we're going to help you, and basically we're going to come in and become the monopoly on this kind of business in your country. You're welcome, says the United States. And that's improper. Shouldn't be funding that. You're picking winners big time with all this government money. Here's Rubio talking about it.
The United States has spent billions of dollars over the years in helping with health strategies all across the world. What we learned over time, and especially after coming here, is that oftentimes, and I'm oversimplifying it, but this is an accurate description, what would happen is we would go to a country and say, we're going to help you with our health care needs. Then we would drive over to Northern Virginia somewhere, find an NGO, one of these organizations, give them all the money, tell them go to this country and do their healthcare program for them. That NGO would then take about some percentage of that money for their overhead and administrative costs. And by the time it got down to it, the host country had very little influence. It was sort of imposed on them. And only a percentage of the overall money ever actually reached the patients and the people on the ground that we were trying to help because of these costs. This makes no sense. So why are we hiring American and international NGOs to go into other countries and run healthcare systems that are parallel and sometimes in conflict with the healthcare systems of the host country? If we're trying to help countries, help the country. Don't help the NGO to go in and find a new line of business. And so that's what the model that we're breaking. We're not doing this anymore. We are not going to spend billions of dollars funding the NGO industrial complex while close and important partners like Kenya either have no role to play or have very little influence over how healthcare money is being spent. Bottom line is, if you want to help a country, work with that country.
They didn't want to help countries. They wanted to launder money to their buddies in the NGOs. Okay, that's why. They didn't want to help countries. That was just the excuse to get us to give them money to launder. Okay, that's the reason things like that happen. Oh yeah, we're helping people. Okay, well here's some money. Can we see receipts? Don't be racist. Oh, receipts are racist? They sure are. When you're asking woke people for accountability, they are. CJ says, holy smoke, the assistant U.S. attorney investigating the Somali fraud in Minnesota says as much as $18 billion could have been stolen from the taxpayers. How much do you think fraud-wise? I know in Guelph, Ontario, the city pays for hotels for drug addicts and other people in shelters, hotel rooms, the whole shebang, and 3 meals a day or 2 meals a day or whatever it is, a lunch and a dinner. Maybe it's 3. I'm sure they have their own fridge in there. And there are daily, morning, afternoon, and evening, I think, taxi rides from the hotel to the safe injection site for taxpayer-funded drugs. And so would that not be fraud? Would that not be a bad thing? And if all of these people are homeless, fine, but these people are illegal or non-citizens or awaiting some kind of hearing or something to that effect. How is this kind of giving, how is this kind of money and all that where's the oversight? And how are we ensuring that criminals aren't using this, or all sorts of other concerning situations, right? And it feels like we're being grifted. And I think that this kind of stuff is happening in Canada and we just aren't allowed to ask about it or something. We're too polite to ask about it. I'm not too polite to ask about it, but I get censored, so.
I spoke in the fall about the iceberg I saw ahead. Something's fraud that's much larger than what's been visible to the public. When I said that, it wasn't hyperbole or rhetoric, it was a warning.